Okay, so let's continue. So B. So A was items that were needed for next day. So we said there is a problem. Unless there is a permissible way, as we said, the book you read, the kittel you wear with the cookies, there is a problem. Okay. Okay, continue. The items be the items that have already fulfilled their purpose. Okay, that's a second category. Right? If item was carried somewhere on Yom Tov and used to fulfill the certain need, it may not be carried back to the original location if it is use is not needed there for that day. Very simple. Storing the item is not considered storing the item is not considered the need, the Yom Tov need, and does not justify carrying through the public domain. Right? That you want to put it back in place. Right? Thus, in the case mentioned above, carrying Haggadah or Kittel home for storage after Seder is not permitted. Right? So, especially I would say after the second day. But again, if you wear the kittel, there is no problem because it's article of clothing. If you say in the morning, I want, we're talking about second night, right? Second night. So if you say in the morning, I'm going to use it as birchas hamazon, there is no problem. Okay, there are exceptions, but not for everything. Okay, so here we go, exceptions. In a situation when the item is needed in a certain location for the performance of the mitzvah, and one's inability to bring home after using it might discourage him from taking it to perform the mitzvah in the first place, one is permitted to carry it home after doing the mitzvah, even though there is no longer any Yom Tov need. The principle is known as they permit the end, there is a carrying the object home, on account of the beginning, performing the mitzvah. For example, lulav and esrog are needed in a shul on sukkahs, as one supposed to shake them while reciting Hallel. The people would not leave them in a shul for the fear that they might be stolen or ruined. If it was forbidden to carry the lulav and esrog home, people might refrain from bringing them to shul altogether, and would thus be restrained from performing the mitzvah properly. To ensure the performance of the mitzvah, it is permitted to carry lulav and esrog home from the shul, even though there is no longer Yom Tov need for them. Okay, so let me see how long is it. Okay, let's stop here. Going back and we're going to explain. So exception is I see our sages they knew the psychology of the people. So if it's going to detract person, of course as we understand it's all rabbinical enactment, right? So the sages thought if it's going to stop person from performing the real mitzvah, so they say, okay, for whatever we said, let him do it. Just leave him alone. And here's the citation again. The citation when the item is needed in certain location for performance of the mitzvah. So that the best example is lulav and esrog, right? And lulav and esrog. So technically, if you have a sukkah in your home, you have to shake it in the morning, like the first thing when you wake up. Is it the first thing when you wake up? I would say so. I always say the blessing. I would say the morning blessing, this and that's the blessing on the start of the Torah. Only then I would shake the lulav. Okay, but it's one of the first things that in the morning, right? So technically, once you shook it in your house, that's it. So you fulfill the mitzvah. So, but the beautification of the mitzvah, the sages say, you take this lulav and esrog when you recite Hallel in the synagogue, when we go around the bima, right? So that's extra, right? It's extra beautification, but technically you fulfill your obligation already at home, right? So if Performance of the mitzvah. If one inability to bring home after using it might discourage him from taking to it to perform the mitzvah in the first place. So if the guy said, I'm not going to leave it in shul, so there are kids running around, there are kids, little kids. I mean, they just open the box and see, like, they're just playing. That's what kids do, right? And then my $300 esrog is going to get ruined. So that's not what I want, right? So a person says, I'm not going to bring home to shul. No way. Right? So that's very, very simple. In the first place, one is permitted to carry it home after doing the mitzvah, even though there is no longer any Yom Tov need. So, like, if you have the family members that are going to shake the lulav in esrog, there is no problem whatsoever. So you bring for them. So it is a Yom Tov needs for them or your neighbor or whatever. So there is a Yom Tov need. But we say that, for example, there is nobody else in the house, nobody else is going to shake it. Okay. The principle is known. I love this principle. They permit the carrying object home on account of the beginning, performance of the mitzvah. So sometimes the sages say, look, we cannot just forbid things because people are not going to comply, right? I mean, they would find the solution with the contrary to what we meant. Okay. For example, lulav and esrog are needed in shul for sukkahs. One's supposed to shake while reciting hallow, right? But people would not leave them in a shul. Again, okay, I'm going to skip. We said that. Okay. Okay, so all right, so we would allow him because otherwise he would not bring it to the shul in the first place. However, if one is on the way home from shul and stopped at the house where his lulav and esrog would be safe. For example, he visited a relative of a friend. He is not permitted to carry them home from there. So that's a different place, a different case. So you are afraid that it's going to get ruined if you leave it in somebody else in a shul. Okay, that's understandable. But now you're in your parents' house, you're in your friend's house, so you can live there. Okay, since they will be definitely not stolen or damaged in his relatives or friend's private home, the basis for permitted and carrying object home on account of being performed the mitzvah no longer exists, right? But for example, I start my prayer at 7 a.m. Let's say, so I have to get my lulav and esrog at 6:30 or something, right? And this guy goes at 9 a.m. minion, so they sleep at this time. Understand? So it's also a burden for them, and it's too much. So there are limits. If, however, the family member at home not yet fulfilled the mitzvah, one may bring the lulav and esrog home for the sake of the person in need, right? So as we said before, that's a beautiful explanation. So if somebody in your house still needs to do mitzvah, for example, you have your wife, she wants to shake a lulav and esrog. Ashkenazic tradition, she can also recite the blessing. Right, so that's what we said. What is the difference between Sephardim and Ashkenaz? That's a big difference. Sephardim women would never recite the blessing, but Ashkenazi custom absolutely. If they want to take obligation upon themselves, there is no problem. Of course, she's going to say bli neder. I'm not going to shake every day like men. That's understandable. But whenever I have a chance, I'm going to shake. So it's like a mitzvah that is not connected with time. So she would say the blessing. Continue. It would, if it would cause great discomfort to retrieve the lulav and esrog before going to shul on the second day. Meaning, as I said, he started at 7, they started at 9. I'm going to knock at his door at 6:30. That's too much. One should consult a halachic authority. So I would say, ask me, don't stop by your friend or have your wife shake the lulav or somebody else in your house. And that's it.